Like you said, you just start and
you just start and it just comes out. Yeah. Because it's from some other place that it comes to you. It's not your own idea. I know I'm not that smart, so I was like, I couldn't have figured that out. So I don't know where that came from. But I'm curious. You've accomplished a lot too. Can you go back and find places in your life? I mean, if you were to examine, you'd find it where you changed directions in something that turned into something else. But there was somebody there who said something to you, who kind of said something that pushed you like in that direction. They might not even remember telling you that.
Yeah.
They said something that was just really stuck in your ear, and it sent you off on a path.
You're one of those people.
Oh, really?
You're one of those, okay, you can talk about it. Yeah, it's rebel without a crew. It's the quote that I loved, which is, don't refer to yourself as an aspiring filmmaker.
Right.
You're a filmmaker.
Right.
Just that's it. And that's it.
Right.
You say what you are, and then you become that thing.
And that sounds like, okay, whatever. It's hugely powerful.
Well, because you label yourself as that, and it's like, then is there a moment where you're going to change that, and say, now I've moved from aspiring to, once you establish yourself as that, you're going to remain that,
Well, you'll also just conform to that, because now that's even stronger, that's your identity now.
Yeah.
Because if your identity is one, that's why I say, people would say, I'm an aspiring filmmaker, to be humble and to be, but I say you can't use that word, or you'll always be that. You just called yourself someone who's trying to attain. You'll always be trying. And I learned that because when I did Mariachi, I didn't really type a formal screenplay. I kind of did like I did all my movies, where I would just kind of write out everything that people were going to say and do.
Cards.
It was just not in a format. And then we went and shot that, and then cards, it could be out of order or whatever. But when I went to show it to an agent for the first time, before I was signed, the guy who ended up signing me, and I told him what I did, he said, "Oh, so you're a writer-director?" And I went, "Writer? I guess I wrote what I did, but I didn't think I was a writer-director. I don't know if I'm a writer. I shoot shit to go edit. I'm more of an editor. And I guess I'm a director because I told people what to do. I wouldn't own it.
Funny,
I wouldn't own it. Even though I'd written something, like how much more validation do you need? Like we don't give ourselves permission to call ourselves something, and it changes your life. Like if I walked out of there then saying, okay, I'm a writer, what are you going to go do? You're going to go write scripts, because now you're a writer. You're not somebody who kind of makes a laundry list.
Right.
So it's just a big difference. And you do that to yourself when you give yourself something lesser than. And you can do it to yourself, though, in a positive way if you give yourself. So I tell people, don't give yourself a bad label, because then that becomes it.
Listen, yeah, and I would say the same thing about myself, too, initially. I would describe myself as a writer, and I'm a director under protest, because I direct when it's necessary. But that's important, because you do what you need to do to get things done.
Yeah.
Anyway, joining us midstream here is Austin original, huge inspiration to so many people. Inspiration to me in particular, and all of my friends when we were trying to figure out how to get started at the University of Texas. Director of El Mariachi, Desperado. It's easier to name your franchises, I think, than your individual films.
Right.
Robert Rodriguez, everybody. Robert Rodriguez.
Hello, everybody.
Good to have you, man. Good to see you.
Great to be here. Good to see you again.
I know we see each other from time to time, but it's good to sit down.
Not often enough. It's good to see you and to see what all you're doing. And
it's a little tough, Scotland, and you're always working on something. Always
working on something. I wish I was working in Scotland. I would love to go to Scotland and visit you there.
We love it there. It was a crazy time to change countries, though, because I'd never lived outside of the country before, and we moved there in March of 2020.
Right.
We couldn't predict it after looking for 2 years, but good to be back and good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
And when we were, a lot of times when people sit down and talk to you, it's always the origin story of how you got started, El Mariachi. But it's important because to me, you're a guy who never stops starting. You're always doing something new and doing something to start. But the big story when I was in college was this guy who was a couple years ahead of us, got $7,000 from, I'll let you tell the story. Where did you get your $7,000?
Medical research. Well, they think they still have them around, don't they? I don't see the big billboards like they used to, but it used to be a place where any drug that comes out on the market has to go through years and years and years of testing by the FDA. And so they put up the phase 4 places near colleges, because college students always need money, and they always need healthy young male specimens between 18 and 24.
Yeah, they need money.
So it was a perfect operation going. You would run your credit card up buying school supplies and have to go check in one of those places and give your blood. And, I got holes taken out of my arms for a speed healer drug. And the cholesterol drug for mariachi I tested actually is on the markets. Lipitor was called X3215 back then.
No kidding.
So
it's Lipitor, huh?
Yeah, it was great. They fed us hamburgers and stuff. We got to eat a high cholesterol diet.
Which was free food too.
But I was in there for a month, and I wrote mariachi while I was in there. I figured if I'm going to be locked in this hospital, and I came out with $3,000 to buy to the movie.
And I love too because you formed some creative ideas when you were in there too that you used years later. I think when we went, Troublemaker Studios is right next door to where Rooster Teeth was, Stage 5 in the Austin Film Studios.
How crazy is that?
And I guess crazy, right? After all that time, personally to me, it's like being inspired by you. I was a computer science student. I wasn't even a film student.
Wow.
So you gave me that inspiration of like, yeah, why not just go do it?
That's
and
crazy.
it was so hard to get your hands even on equipment that could record and edit.
Possible.
How did you edit El Mariachi?
Well, I was used to editing between two VCRs, all my original films. And even when I did Bedhead, which was a film, I shot it on film. I projected it on the wall. I videotaped it with my video camera, went home, edited it first between VCRs just to get the cuts because I wanted the cuts to be clean, and then conformed the film to it. So Mariachi is the same thing. I cut on video at the cable access station they had here on the 3/4-inch decks, which is linear editing. It's not non-linear editing, it's linear editing. It means once I start cutting even just 10 shots of the movie, I can't go back and change it, or I have to change everything that came after. So I did the whole thing in one go, and not even knowing if it'd be long enough, because my script was, handwritten. It was only 40 pages. I thought, let me shoot some slow motion, some dream sequences in case I don't have enough feature time and I can stretch the movie out. And it ended up being 80 minutes. But I edited first on video, and then I conformed the film later when they wanted a film print. But originally I was just going to cut the video and sell it on 3/4-inch video. But what's cool about that is it teaches you editing, because you need to know editing if you want to film.
Right.
Because I've realized over the years, I've always been my own editor, that's the biggest reason why movies go over budget and over schedules, that not one person on the crew knows editing. The editor is in a room somewhere, not helpful on the set. And that's when you need to know, no, we don't need to shoot that again. We got the piece we need. Or you're very selective on what you get. So it was a gift to do it that way, to learn that archaic way, because it gave me better skills once I got computer editing and all that stuff.
And even when I was a computer science student, at that point in time, it was mid-'90s going into the late '90s. The dot-com era was changing everything.
Oh, right.
And those professors who had been, using punch cards to program computers, they went to teach us, as upper division students, and they said, I don't even understand what's going on now, but I'll teach you the fundamentals, and the fundamentals are never going to change.
Right.
And that's true. You learn the basics of editing and how to do it, and that's never going to change no matter what tools they put in place.
Yeah, the art of editing has nothing to do with the technology. Technology is literally just the tool. So when people would say, well, I don't want to cut on a computer because, I want the organic feeling of film. Well, that shit doesn't grow on trees. That's a technology too. It's just such an old technology. You don't think of it as that. Computer, it's the art form is the manipulation of images to tell a story. And you can do that on film, you can do that with paper, or you can do it on the computer. It doesn't matter.
I tell you what I don't miss, though, from those days. Film is great, and I love shooting on film. It's great. I remember being a broke filmmaker. So we shot a $9,000 movie, but we would tell everybody in our meetings, it's like, actually, per minute, it's cheaper than El Mariachi. So we were trying to follow in your wake. And I remember you'd push the button. We had a Canon Scoopik, 16 millimeter, and we couldn't shoot sound because it was so noisy.
Right.
But every second, I knew how much it cost while that film was rolling through the camera. And that was always going on in the back of my head.
So you shot one take of everything also?
Yeah, we had 100-foot rolls, so we were like...
Oh, geez. Yeah, I had 400-foot rolls, which made it a little easier. Well, it was a little wasteful because I had the camera I borrowed, the meter wasn't working. So it would show, you put in a 400-foot roll, and it would show it at 380.
Really?
So you knew that it was somewhere you had a phantom. So when it hit 380, you go, I may be out of film. I may have 20 more feet. I don't know. So I would go shoot dream sequence stuff and slow motion sequences. It was more like 350, would just show that it was already at capacity, and it wasn't. So you'd have to not shoot anything important in case it burned out.
And you've got a lot of big firsts, too, like on a global level for shooting digital, projecting digital. What was the first thing you shot on digital?
I tended to do Spy Kids. I've shot some test shots on the original Spy Kids on digital. I was comparing them we did some pickup shots, and I said, let's have our film camera there, which we have to shoot because that's what the rest of the movie is. But I want to test this video thing that George Lucas had just showed me, these cameras. I want to test it out. And it was just so much easier to light. You could see, you could look at your monitor and go, let's fix that light there and there. And my DP, who didn't want to touch digital, he wasn't going to go with me on that journey.
It was a thing.
He came to and looked. And I said, hey, what do you think of our lighting? And he looked at the monitor. He looked at it and he goes, okay, yeah, maybe you should scrim that white shirt's getting a little white. Maybe put a little scrim there. And he looks at the monitor again. Oh, it looks good to go. And I'm the DP on the next movie. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking this and I'm running with it. So it was actually Once Upon a Time in Mexico, which didn't come out for 2 years later because they didn't need it that soon. Because it was the only thing I could get done before a strike. And that was a literally 2-week prep, 7-week shoot to make it before the strike. And we didn't know how to use those cameras. We're pulling them out of boxes for the first time, seeing the monitor, going, well, we're getting an image over there, and it's saying record. I think we're recording. I mean, it was just like mariachi. It was really funny.
And then by the time you were making Alita, when we came to visit you, you had characters on set, and you had monitors where you could see the actual rendering of the character in real time. It was a lower fidelity version of it.
Yeah, like a video game. You could at least see what they were doing and get a sense of how their scale was. It was very helpful for the actors because most everything else we were doing was real, for real. She was going to be changed out, but it was like her in a real environment, except for a couple of those other characters that were like monstrous cyborgs as well. Yeah, I mean, to begin on the ground floor of changing technologies is essential because it teaches, you're able to tell the technology where it's even going to go because you're using it right away. Like when they first showed us the video cameras that we used on Once Upon a Time in Mexico, they didn't know it could shoot slow motion. I came back and went, no, you can't shoot slow motion. Shoot 60 frames and then, duplicate every half frame, make that a full frame, and you got 60 frames per second. So we have slow motion out there. Like, oh, no, there's technicians. They just made these cameras. They don't know how they use. Nobody wanted to use them or test them. And all those other DPs who didn't stuck their head in the sand and were afraid to use it for 10 years ended up not being part of the conversation or the design of the cameras. And now they're stuck with what's there.
Well, there you go. That's the thing I'm talking about. Never stop starting. There's always these opportunities, even when you're really well established. You were extremely well established by that point in time. There's always an opportunity to start something new and do something new.
Yeah.
And you did that with digital, when you were doing that with your effects, like real-time effects for like rendering of visual effects. And now you're starting a new thing with Brass Knuckle. You're like always starting something new.
Yeah. I like labels, when you call like the label we were talking about. Call yourself a filmmaker. If you just change your label, or if you want to be an entrepreneur, don't say I'm an entrepreneur. What is an entrepreneur? Well, he goes and starts a business. So go start a business. But you can do that with a branding too. Like you have Rooster Teeth. It gives you a filter. You already know what stuff's not going to go in that company.
Right.
And it gives you a focus. Because when you can just do anything, sometimes it's the sky's the limit. That's not a good thing. It's very crippling. But if you can go. And so by making a movie company, if this was just a movie company that did any kind of movie, we wouldn't know where to go. I mean,
right.
Too many options. Like the Beatles could do it with 4 tracks because they had less options. So we thought, let's make a brand that's movies that are always needed, always wanted, will always sell to distributors, to studios. They don't know how to make them themselves for a price. So if we can leverage the Troublemaker Studios to keep the cost down, we could go make a slate of 4 action films. I'll direct at least one of them. I think I'm going to direct 2. And produce all of them there, Troublemaker, to keep the cost down so we get to profit sooner. And the audience gets to participate by actually investing in the slate. So if any one of them are successful, you make money and enjoy success. And if it goes on to sequels, you even enjoy the success of the sequels and earn money from that. But the best part of that is even people who come in at the lowest tier gets to pitch us their action movie idea, and I'm committed to making at least one of them from the investors' ideas. Having our community board already up, they're just like so excited and cheering each other on and trying to come up with a story because the audience knows what they want to see. A lot of times they go to a test screening and see a movie. It's the first time they're being shown something, and they're like, no, that's not good. This sucks. And why not have them in there from the ground floor and then give them a piece of the action? Because where's their cut in that? They're told to go consume a movie or a game and then go tell all their friends, and the company makes all the money.
Yeah, it's just like a pre-order in that
So
case,
they're
right?
crazy, yeah. So it's like, hey, give them a piece of that action. So they're excited about it.
Is this the first time you've been this close with the community and the audience doing it? Like, there's an ongoing conversation. I was in the comments on the Republic site where it's hosted, and I was looking at all that, and I see like your team is in there talking to people and answering questions. Is that a new thing for you as well?
Yeah. We never really interacted with people at that level. It was always, just conventions or meeting people or, social media. It wasn't exciting when you have something that people pay to be there. They're so excited to be there. It's all positive. Like everyone is just helping each other, and it's a real community because they want to be there. They sacrifice something to be there. It's not a lot. You don't have to put in a lot of money to get that. I think the lowest tier is $250, and you get perks and stuff. But it's not crowdfunding or Kickstarter. I mean, you literally are an investor, and no studio would ever give you anything like that.
No.
An opportunity.
No.
But I want the audience to win because the audience has been there supporting the movies and everything from the beginning. And this is just part of my DNA of always giving out as information as I get it because I want others to be able to follow. And if you can create an innovation where that's the way to fund a movie is where the audience wins, that's a good innovation.
Yeah.
If we can pull that off, that's our goal.
That's always been a big thing with you. Because, I've been following you since I started, and you always share things. And it's not always the case with everybody.
No.
Like you have your film schools you do. Rebel Without a Crew is basically an instruction manual.
Like you say, it's counterintuitive to share because if you discover some big thing that's going to create success for you, you want to disguise it in smoke and mirrors usually. That's what most people in the industry do. I was very counterintuitive. I'm going to tell everybody exactly what I did because I would have appreciated hearing that as a student who felt he was on the outside looking in and could never even get in. Even when people saw my shorter films that win festivals, they'd ask me, are you going to go to UCLA or go to LA? And I'd be like, nah, I don't know anybody out there. It's all about contacts, it's about people I don't know anybody. I'm just going to stay here at home and make my little comic strip and make little movies. I didn't know I could get into the industry. So as soon as I could, and do it from home, which nobody was doing, not having to move out there, I wanted to share it with everybody. So that's counterintuitive. But it happened that I wrote this book, Rebel Without a Crew, and I hadn't read it since I wrote it, and I just reread it a few months ago for the audio version, the Audible, and I was like, holy shit, I'd forgotten a lot of the details, and now I can see why it was so inspiring to people. I can see why everyone would be reading the book, dropping the book, going, I'm going to go make a movie. This is unbelievable how fast it happens, because back when you're younger, I'm sure if you really look at the time schedule and how fast you came up with these ideas and how fast they paid off, 6 months seems like 6 years. But now you look back, knowing what 6 months is now, go, oh my God, from the moment I had the idea, was writing it in the hospital, clearly I don't know what I'm doing, but I started and I'm fumbling my way through. I'm only trying to sell it to Spanish Video, and I failed because, thank God, she dropped out. We had a little soap star who was going to be the female, the character. She dropped out on us, so we went ahead and made it anyway, and they wouldn't buy it for very much at the Spanish Video market because they didn't have her. They were going to still give us $20,000, but I had to chase them down for the contracts. Good thing.
Right.
When I'm reading the book, I'm so bummed I didn't reach my goal. So when you go out on you say, go start, you're going to hit a bunch of roadblocks. But if you started it instinctually, you may be thinking too small. And the universe is going to push you that way and then that way and then that way, all the way to Sundance. We got to Sundance. But Sundance was years later. So right away, as soon as I couldn't sell that video, they were going to take a long time. I was trying to sell it before Christmas. I thought, well, maybe look up this agent that was going to be speaking at Austin. Oh, well, I'm in L.A. Let me look him up. So I looked up my agent, took him the movie. He watched it, said, I could get you work as a writer-director right now. That's when I was like, writer-director? He goes, yeah, I'll send this video around town. Sent it around town. I was a toast of the town right away. People were flying me up, all these different studios, wanting to do deals with this 22-year-old kid. And I thought, I've never heard of anyone getting into business like this. Whenever I was at a hotel, I would get some of the robes that had the name of it on there. I said, I know this is all going to go away tomorrow. There's no way, because it's never happened before. So I never heard anybody get in like this. They must do this all the time, where they find some film student, bring him up, wine him and dine him, And then he just disappears off the face of the earth because I've never heard anyone get in the industry like this. And when you read the book, you realize, wow. And I'm just laughing the whole time I'm reading. Oh my God, this, now that I know better, this never happened before and never happened again. All these things are just dropping in your lap. You see how a setup like that, ooh, I got to sell this movie. And then I don't sell it and I'm really bummed out. 2 or 3 months later, sell it for 10 times as much to Columbia Pictures. Good thing I didn't sell it, before. So you start seeing how, I tell people, you got to journal because you think your life's not working out. The life you envisioned didn't work out. And good thing. The one that you had an instinct for was something you could not see. So you just got to start and not let failure, like I hope you fail. I hope you all fail because I failed miserably. I even went to my agent after I got an agent. Can you help me sell mariachi? He goes, they offered you 20 grand for it? That's tripling your money. You're a success in this town. Go sell it to them. He wasn't going to help me even sell it. He knew nobody wanted it. The reason they bought it was because I didn't have any other ideas. And they said, well, you got a deal at a studio now. What movies do you want to make? Well, this actually happened really fast. I was going to make 3 of these mariachis in Spanish to just practice, sell them, and then whatever money I made, I'd cut together my best demo reel from the best scenes from all 3 movies, use that to raise money to make my first serious English language American film. The other ones would just be hidden as practice films.
Right.
So I didn't have any ideas. How about we just remake mariachi since you like that one? Like Antonio Banderas or something. And I said, okay, well, but we want to screen your original one because we don't think audiences will like the fact that the girl dies. So we just want to test it before we remake it. So they tested it, and the audience liked it the way it was. So then they took it to festivals. I was like, no, don't show this movie. Never intended anyway. I can do much better. Give me $2,000. I'll reshoot half of it. If I just knew people were going to see it, I would have done it completely different. I did it mainly to hide it on Spanish video. That's why it's called The Guitar Player, basically. Nobody wanting to watch an action movie is going to rent a movie called The Guitar Player. It was just my own joke to myself. It was my way to make sure no one saw it.
Right.
But this was the beauty of that. By thinking no one would see it, I really just made something I wanted to see because I thought, well, I'm going to go to the trouble of making this movie. I'm going to make it something I'm going to enjoy. I'll put jokes in and try some stuff. No one's going to see it anyway. And that taught me such a powerful lesson, which was do it for yourself, throw it away. Don't care what the audience wants to see. Don't even think about it. You don't know what they want. And just keep going.
It's good for me to hear that because that's like where I am right now. It's like everything got so big. And that was our core belief at the beginning. 2 things you said, make things you want to see. We'd say that all the time. And there was a guy I worked with. You never met him. You would have loved him. He was, I think, one of the best fight choreographers in the world.
Wow.
Animation guy named Monty. He's passed away now. Passed away really young. And he was just absolutely incredible. I'll show you some of his stuff later. Maybe you guys can pull up like Haloid or Dead Fantasy 2. That would be something we can see in the background. Some of the wild fight scenes that he did. We worked with him, and he did animation. Fight choreography. But we would talk about that, of limitations are sometimes the best thing you can do to yourself for creativity. And what we would say was, if you can do anything, you feel like you have to do everything. And then you just get paralyzed by all that opportunity. Yeah. And so we would put in limitations for ourselves.
Yeah, definitely you want to limit the palette because too many choices. Like if you have too big of a palette, I call it the I need list. Like before you can even make your dream happen, you make a list of all the stuff that you need. Like if I didn't go learn, like the thing that taught me, you said somebody told you something that sent you on a journey. My first boss saw that I was a photographer, and he said, you're very creative. You now need to learn how to become technical because technicians always need creative people and creative people always need technicians. You can be both if you apply yourself. It's against your nature to read manuals and technical manuals, but do it. Learn how to technically do things, and you'll be unstoppable if you're both those. That's Jim Cameron. That's George Lucas. So I thought, wow, I was 16, unstoppable. That's why I didn't take anyone with me to mariachi. Even friends that wanted to come help, I was like, no, I'm going to make myself learn how to operate this camera, how to light it, how to do the sound. I want to learn I don't want to have an I need list that gets so long because otherwise I want to go make my feature film in Mexico, but first I need a DP. I'm going to need a crew. I'm going to need an editor. I'm going to need a film. I'm going to need somebody to change the film. That's how far you are from your dream. The longer that list gets, if you can just go, I just need me. And maybe one other thing. That's it. Then you're on your way. So by limiting yourself, I limited myself to like a camera that didn't have sound. because then that would have been another thing I needed. I could borrow this one that didn't have sound. So I had that already. I don't need anything else. It's going to be a lot more work, but at least I don't have to go find something else or I'll never make this movie. Mm-hmm. So if you're like a painter and you say, I'm going to do this painting with a fan brush only and a detail brush, is that painting going to suck? It's like, no, it's going to actually create something that someone with 100 brushes couldn't do because you're limiting the palette. So know that it's not a bad thing to limit your palette. Just like I'm limiting what the palette of this is. They're only action movies that we know can sell because we want them to be profitable. We're not even going to do hybrid movies because sometimes those are harder to sell. They work sometimes, but I want to sell something. We want to make something that always sells, right. Because we want to be successful right away. And then later we can branch out. But the problem with Hollywood, sometimes they develop so much stuff that nobody wants to see, and a lot of money goes that way. And it's like shooting fish in a barrel. And we want to be very targeted and very smart about it.
What I was going to say, going back to the story of Alita, when we got to visit the set, you made that incredible set, like that
Still
futuristic.
have it. 90,000 square foot set, probably the largest standing set in the country, if not the world, because most sets get boned down for the next movie. But since it's my own studio, I just left it there. It's been there since 2016.
You've
Huge.
always been really good about that, and I've really admired that from a. I'm
from a family of 10 kids. What can I say? We're always survivalists till the end.
Even when you were down south, like way down south off Burleson, I remember that.
That was the first one. Yeah. That was the first one for faculty. And most of Spy Kids. And then we found this bigger space because the airport had just moved, and so we got into one of the old airport hangars that belonged to the governor's plane, and we started. This is how unpremeditated it was. We made Spy Kids 2, Spy Kids 3, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. It wasn't until I got to Sin City that I was walking from my office. Remember my office? You can walk to the green screen. And I was like, whoa, I've got my own studio. Yeah. How'd that happen? I guess we're going to be here a while. We've been cranking out movie after movie. No one has their own studio. Not even George Lucas had his own studio, like a place to go film dedicated. I always had to go rent a spot. Let's start putting our props and posters up and really own the fact that we have, like say I have a studio. I own my own studio. But it took a while. It took many movies to figure that out because it was so not done. But
you're just gathering things as you went.
Yeah, and then I kept all the props, I kept all the sets, kept all the costumes, so for 30 years of that stuff, we have all that. And so you saw the set, and you're saying, when after I showed you Alita, the set, I go, by the way, we're not finished with the movie, but I'm making this whole other El Mariachi type movie.
This goes back to the Never Stop Starting. We're on the set of this gigantic blockbuster James Cameron produced. We are there looking at all this. Wow, it looks almost like an amusement park, honestly. Like that's the only thing that comes close to what this set looks like, a theme park. And then you're like, oh, but you got to check this out. And so we go back into your editing bay, and it was this Red 11. It was this small film you made with your son, right?
Yeah.
And it was all about your Pharmaco days.
Yeah, all about how I raised the money for mariachi. So let's make a thriller out of that because it's funny.
So while you're in the middle of making this gigantic blockbuster, you're still starting something new. And I have to laugh about it because it's you walk out of there and you're like, man, I'm not doing enough. I was beating myself up. I was like, man, I really got to stay on top of things.
What's weird is it's called, I call it creative hooky. So you're already doing something, a big project, and you have this
great term,
burning desire to go do this other thing that's still creative, but it's a whole other offshoot. Like I'm so busy with this stuff. Then Wolfgang Van Halen calls me and he goes, hey, remember you offered me to make me a music video? Well, I need one in a few weeks. And I want it to be this based on one of your movies. And I was like, oh my God, okay. So we shot it in 2 days, crazy. It'll be out Friday. Edited in 2 days. Showed it to him just like a couple days ago. And it's coming out. And I love doing projects like that because it's just seat of your pants. You have to just start. You don't know what you're going to do. You have to list all your assets like I did on Mariachi. This is the biggest trick too, is to keep your I need list down. Well, if you're going to make a movie, you're going to need stuff that you're going to have to go get to be in the movie. Well, don't go get anything. Look around. We got a hammer. We've got basketballs. We've got that. We've got this room. Let's write a script around that. Start with that. Make a list of everything you have and then write a story around that. But anyway, I was so excited to do that again. So Red 11 was my book, Rebel Without a Crew. I was turning it into a TV series for a TV network I owned. Mm-hmm. So I had to do that show. So we picked other filmmakers to also make a movie for $7,000. The same way I did, only one person could help him for 2 weeks. And something amazing happened to each one of those filmmakers. So I thought, I'm going to bring my son Racer with me. He's going to hate it. He's going to hate. He has other passions now. He's not going to want to be on a set carrying a microphone. I didn't show him how to use the sound equipment until the moment he needed to do it, because there's a documentary crew filming it, because it's a behind the scenes show. I can just take someone who doesn't even know what they're doing, and you're going to see that I'm going to have to make a movie with this person. 2 lights. We only carried 2 lights everywhere. He wrote the script with me.
And plus your dad.
2-week shoot, you know.
To everyone else, you're Robert Rodriguez. To him, it's dad.
Well, and Dad, I knew at the end of the day he might come and go, Dad, this isn't for me.
Right.
Because, you know, we know if you need to really love what you're doing, it's too much work.
Oh, and you don't want to force your kids into anything.
And you don't want to force them. Well, it's counterintuitive.
Anybody,
Now I force them into it because I've learned counterintuitive parenting now, which is make them do it, because a movie is the biggest life lesson ever, because it's like a microcosm of what life is. Take on this big challenge, make your plan, which in this case is a script, make it as bulletproof as possible, go to do it, watch it all freaking fall apart,
right,
and then roll up your sleeves, turn chicken shit to chicken salad, make that thing better. It comes out better than your original plan. Wash, rinse, repeat. That's life and that's art. And by the end of the first day, he came over, Dad, the actor didn't show up. Just like my first mariachi, the location didn't match the script at all. We asked you how we're going to figure it out because they were nervous. And you went, well, I don't know, we'll figure it out. And by the end of the day, he was like, we figured it out. And I said, oh, he's going to like this. He's going to see that's how it is every day, but not just in movies, in life. And that's when I realized I need to make them all do it as a kind of college that shows them how life works. By the end of the 2 weeks, he was waxing philosophical about the creative process when they interviewed him. Like he'd been doing it for years.
Yep.
And his interview's the best. He crystallized it so quick. He goes, I never knew how my dad made mariachi for $7,000 with no crew. But now, having done this with him, with just me and him, now I know he just started. Most people just never start. He didn't know how he was going to do it either. He figured it out day by day. And most people never start. And it's like, well, that's it. That's all. That's how it got made. I didn't know. You didn't know a lot of the stuff you were going to do was going to work. You had an instinct, but you didn't know. You just started, and not everything worked the way you wanted, but in a lot of ways it ended up way much better, because sometimes we set our sights really low. So sometimes the universe wants you to go, an even bigger route.
And sometimes it can be huge things, like with your son as well. When you reintroduced Boba Fett into the Star Wars universe, one of the most beloved characters with the least amount of screen time ever, and you had to reintroduce him. But that was during COVID, right? When you started the
I was in
pre-production?
COVID. Nobody was even making anything back then.
And then
lucky.
And then you guys to do pre-production. When you went to do it, you're all in lockdown.
Yeah.
And so I think we have a clip of it. You went into the backyard with your sons and you did previs.
They hired me on the last minute because they lost the director, so I had to do
is that
previs.
Right?
Yeah, so I had to do previs. And I wasn't going to chance to work with the previous guys who had already done it months before for the rest of the show. Uh-huh. So I had a whole new way of doing it for his show up. So his got to be like Conan. He's got to be badass. So I did some scrappy at-home video thing because I would be faster than me drawing it. Put my kids in Stormtrooper helmet, one Stormtrooper helmet and a Boba Fett helmet. Filmed them because I wanted him to raise up taller than the other Stormtroopers like Godzilla. Like Conan, I want him to be like Conan, like the Conan Frazetta paintings. I didn't have stuntmen there. I just used my Star Wars action figures.
I love it.
And then, I thought he's got to punch someone and blast him far away, and so that became his introduction. I just wanted it to be rocking.
And I would think that this would be the kind of thing, like El Mariachi, like, well, I don't want anyone to see this. This is just for me to do.
Just for me to do.
Gave it to them. You gave it to Filoni and Jon Favreau.
For the making of. Yeah, and I showed it to them. They went, wait, was that action figures you were just using? And I was like, I know, that's all I had at handy. He goes, no, I understand. That makes it the coolest animatic.
It makes it amazing.
They were used to these really fancy animatics because they could afford them. But here I show up with this just to communicate an idea. Sometimes you just want to communicate to everybody what you're seeing. So they can go, oh, okay, I see. Oh, we're going to need certain equipment for that and whatever.
Just keep starting, right?
Just keep starting
when you can.
Yeah, just keep starting.
And going back to Brass Knuckle, it is almost poor timing that you're here because we've been planning this for a little while, but your campaign maxed out last night right before.
The initial campaign
Congrats,
maxed out. Thank you. So, but I would still join the wait list, and this is why, because sometimes people drop out. if we see there's enough interest in the wait list, we're going to raise the roof so more people can come in, because we want to build the community. And the community is so active and they're so excited. They're just so into it, and cheering each other on, saying good luck on your action pitch. Because if you pitch us an action movie that we want to make and that we're committed to make at least one from the action pitch of our investors, that's as low as $250 gets you in. Other perks for other levels that are great, like coming to the studio or visiting the set. But even at the lowest level, just come be part of the community. Sign up for that, because you will have a chance to not just be an investor in the movie or be part of the experience, but you have a chance to be the creator as well. Wouldn't you like that? Next time you're on the show, I'm like, here's the guy that won the best idea wins. And it's just a pitch, just an idea. We'll develop the script. So all you have to do is come in with a pitch for a story that just catches your attention, that makes you go, wow, I would want to watch that. I'm picturing the idealized version in my brain, but that's okay. Let's try and make that. But it starts with an idea.
So wait list now, because you never know. People can always drop out, and that's a possibility. It is currently maxed out, but is there any chance that you guys could like bump up your goal? Is
yeah,
that
by the
even
time
possible?
this comes out, it may even be have already bumped up.
Oh, okay, great.
We can bump up the goal once, so we can see how many people are on the wait list. If it looks like, because we still want to tap out, because it's just, it's better to tap out than to leave a big, so we don't want to raise it too high.
So if people want to participate and they want to be part of it, where can they go?
BrassKnuckleFilms.com, and scroll down to the wait list, put in the amount that you would put in, put in the lowest amount, because it's probably easier to get into that. And you just really want proximity.
Yeah.
Because proximity is a proximity phenomenon I found when I would do things with like Quentin or Jim Cameron, just being in the same room with him, or that painter that I didn't even teach us how to paint. We just watched him paint. Just seeing there's no tricks, suddenly you can do it too. And just by being in such a positive group, your head's going to explode. Mm-hmm. And you're going to go, I've got 10 other ideas, not just for screenplays, but for how to 10x my life. It just puts you in a whole different group.
I saw a thing recently too, which I loved. You talk about working with James Cameron, and a lot of people at your level, it's a lot of ego. I think it's fair to say, right? But you're like, I don't want to work, with peers. You want to work with somebody up here, James Cameron, who's like, you just a story about a Steadicam?
Oh, yeah. I was trying to impress the hell out of James when I met him. And I was saying, I'm about to go do Desperado, but we can't afford a Steadicam operator, so I'm going to operate it. I just took a 3-day operating class so I could operate it myself. And he looks at me and goes, yeah, I bought a Steadicam, but not to operate it. I'm going to tear it apart and design a better one. So I was like, that's the kind of people you want to be around.
Right.
Like if he was my equal, he would have said, I did the same thing.
Right.
I'm going to go operate a Steadicam mine. Instead, he's designing whole new systems, which look through his career, that's consistently who he is. He didn't want to get out of bed unless he's innovating. He's like, I'm not even going to make that movie. I made that movie before. I'm going to make another movie. So he's just really, those are the kind of people you want to hang out. You don't want to be the best in your group. How about that? Your parents say, be careful who your peers are when you're younger. And there's one thing there. When you're older, too, you don't want to be the smart guy. You don't want to be the best of the best in your group. Be with peers that are swing much higher than you. And you still have to do shit to be able to hang with them. But when I would be in a room with George Lucas, Bob Zemeckis, Spielberg, Cameron, it's funny taking my kids going, this is the guy who created Terminator. Yeah. And this guy created Indiana Jones. And this guy created The Force. You have to be able to say something. They say, well, what are you doing down in Texas? And if you say, well, I
have some ideas.
I have some ideas. I started in my own studio. I'm going to shoot the first green screen digital movie in digital 3D, the first digital 3D movie, and pioneering digital filmmaking. They go, oh, good show. And they walk out, it's like, whoo, I can hang out with these guys for a little longer.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And don't, talk down your own stuff. Just
right.
Because that's the main thing. Because even me, I'm in that group of people, and I'm saying, even just telling my kids who they are, I'm just, holy shit. Spielberg is the most generous. He goes, come here a second. He takes me over, and his son's playing a video game. And he calls his son's name. Hey, son, do you know who this is? His son's playing. What? And he goes, he made Spy Kids. The kid turns around like that. Yeah. And I was like, wow, Spielberg's kid watches. He wanted me to have that experience.
That's great.
What a nice guy.
I've had that with connecting with people's kids. Like sometimes we even say, like, ask your kids, they'll know. You know what I mean? They'll know.
So
and they do,
funny.
and they call us back, and they're like, oh, yeah, my kids will love you, all your stuff that you worked on. Wow. Spy Kids for a generation of people is just, like, so important to them. You're one of those, we talked about this because you have a lot of creative artwork in all your spaces, and like Frank Frazetta and things like that.
That's right, yeah, Frazetta.
And seeing some of that, like original paintings, like you even commented to me when I was looking at it, you were like, yeah, a lot of people have emotional reactions when they see this. Like, if you're not familiar with artists who did incredible fantasy paintings, Conan is what most I associate him with. And you're the same way. It's always interesting to me when artists have similar, like, those formative neural pathways from art. And maybe when we were younger, there was less because there wasn't all this internet and social media.
Oh, yeah, it seemed like there was less, but it was the good stuff that you realized later when you got exposed to more, that nothing could touch it. And now, of course, everything's digital. Nothing will ever be that again. So it's very rare.
When you see those things and you didn't even realize that they form those neural pathways in your head, but you connect with it immediately, it's hard not to have an emotional reaction to it.
Wow.
It was a really cool experience.
That's great.
But talking about social media, you mentioned social media once. You also mentioned video games. Do you any of those things? You do any of those things?
I started as the video game guy in my family. I had the first, like Xbox on the set of Spy Kids 2, and it came with Halo, and we had one other game, but we were playing that all the time on the set. But as my kids got older, they just started smoking me, and I never won again. I realized, okay, I'll never win at a game again. So I don't get to play as much as they do. But they're designing games, and I work, in the game world, because they still love creating games and storytelling through games. So we're looking to do a big jump into that as well in a big way.
What about social media? Are you on that stuff at all?
I was always in social media just to be able to let people know of stuff that's going on. But now my daughter's got a new album coming out, so I've been promoting that, cross-promoting with her and seeing her get to use it and build a following out of nothing. And it's been really great. And her talent is, now we're going to go play an arena show together that she's going to play in an arena show opening for George Lopez, and we're going to put that on her social media. Can't wait to see what that does. So since mine's tied to hers, it's been really exciting for people to see father-daughter doing stuff, and
it's also
really great.
It's always easier to promote your friends and your kids.
Yeah, but for me, I don't like to go consume a lot of that stuff. And I mean, if your audience is there a lot of creators in your audience?
There are a lot of people who are starting out creating, trying to figure out because everything's changing all the time. It's like they're standing on ground that's constantly shifting.
So if you're using it to like study and see where the world is at, but don't get consumed by it. And my biggest thing, I think you told me what things you noticed as you were building your company, that people got more and more passionate, right? my big thing is that if you want to create, go create a body of work.
Right.
Commit to making a bunch of shit, because you don't know what's going to perform or overperform or underperform. And you can't do that if you're criticizing other people. It takes a lot of energy.
It does.
It takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of time. And that's time you could be making. Where's your body of work? Go make your body of work. So if you concentrate on that, now if you're not going to be a creator, and go see whatever you want. But for those who want to, it's bad for you to be that if you're going to be a creator, because it leaves no room. And you need all the room to do it. I've created a massive body of work because I just stayed out of that stuff. Any other secrets to success that you have that you would want to pass on to someone? Like, what was your big secrets to success?
Well, social media was always a big part of our thing because ours was more web-based. And, when you talk about social media, when you talk about energy, I don't think energy is infinite, but your time is not.
Yeah.
And that's an unfortunate thing just about how we live. And so you can't spend all of your time doing it. At one point, I was very heavy on social media because that's where our community was. And I was spending all my time on Twitter and things like that. And then one day, I'm kind of a metrics guy. Background is, computer
that's what
science.
you're going to tell me about, yeah.
So I ran the numbers on it, and if the average tweet, has about 50 words in it, and then the average novel has 70,000 words in the average novel, I figured out that you write a novel for every 1,250 tweets. So if you've got 10,000 tweets, and a lot of people have way more than that. That's 8 novels for every 10,000 tweets. And
funny.
It's not one-to-one, but when you do the math on it, you kind of think, what am I doing? My time is finite. And do you think like there's can you drain creativity? Because like you said, you have a broad palette. Do you ever worry that you're draining the creativity away from something else? Or do you think it just all builds on itself?
I think, well, if it's positive, like that, I wouldn't consider that being creative, being
I don't
on social media.
Yeah.
But if it's like playing creative hooky, like one of my biggest keys to success was, and I've never talked about this before really, is I've never done drugs. I've never been drunk. There's a reason. I don't drink caffeine. Yeah, I never have.
Yeah, the caffeine thing shocked me.
Now that I'm 57, about to be 57, I realize oh, well, this is clearly the way I'm going to go out. I just always knew to avoid it. You know, when I was a kid, I was eating sunflower seeds, the ones that you would suck on and crack the shell and put them. I was just like, would not stop at school. And I'd have all these moldy shells that I have to pull out every couple of weeks. And I would go, man, I better never get into alcohol or drugs. I have an addictive personality. So coffee, anything like that, I just didn't want to ever get hooked on it. But then I really found a real benefit from that because I realized if you do that, your body can create 10 times what any drug can do, especially when you're on creativity. They've done brain scans of people on creativity. It fires off more, brain activity than any drug. That's why you can stay up for 2 days cutting because you're in this mode. You're not on speed or anything. You're on creativity.
Right.
So when I learned that, really got confirmed that was when I was doing Sin City 2 with Josh Brolin. We film, I take him to the back, and we paint. And he was way into the painting. We paint their character. I have each actor paint their character, show them how to do it, and they always come out like masterpieces. You're not going to believe them when you see them, even though they've never painted before, because it opens up a whole other side of their creative brain. They're already acting, so you're thinking they're being creative, but I'm going to show you something you don't even know how to do, and when you see it happen, you're going to realize the magic of not knowing. You're going to realize the magic that if you take action and just go do it, magic happens. So you just have to start. His girlfriend, who's his wife now, said something funny. She goes, "Are you guys doing drugs? Because you guys are filming, and then you run in the back, and you come back out all jacked up." And I was like, "No, we're painting." But that's funny you say that because I've read that brain scans show that when you're creative, it fires off more. She thought we were doing drugs, but no, we're just painting. And then Josh talked about Hooky. He said he's on the set at one point, and his mind's kind of going like that. And the camera's on before the take, and he goes, "Is it bad that I'm still thinking about the painting?" I go, I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's still good.
Yeah, I'll tell you after the take. We'll find out.
I tell that to my kids because I just kind of did it that way myself. But I said, don't waste your time here. You're in this life. You've got a great life, and you can go do great things. Don't ever waste time with drinking, drugs, on any of that stuff. It's a waste of time. You just cut off your legs at the race. Yeah. I always knew I wasn't that smart. But I knew if I didn't do that stuff, it'd be like the tortoise and the hare. Everyone who was way smarter than me in school would go, and then detour to the parties and to the bar and just go fuck around all night. And sure enough, by 21, I was in the business because I was just going, and just using all that time to do my work, which is play, which is fun, and which was firing off more brain activity than any of the drugs they were doing, and they were not being productive. Yeah. So that's my biggest advice to your young audience because it's counterintuitive. Everyone else is doing it. I'm telling you something. Everyone else is wrong. Everyone else is wrong because that shit's just marketed to them. People want you to drink that shit. All those big companies make it look like that's the way to have a party. And you fuck yourself up.
Yeah, the more you drink, the more you drink.
It's as bad, and anything addictive. Like you're talking social media, but that's like the big one people don't really look at. And that could be a game changer for you because you want that. You want to create those feelings. I believe your body has everything to do that. Everything to do that and more. We don't need anything on the outside.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we short circuit those pathways.
You do, yeah. That's what happens. Is then you short circuit them, and then you need that other stuff to be creative, and then that's not the thing. You just you cut your legs off at the race, and now you're having to, use drugs to get yourself to get back in. But mindset is everything, and you may feel as you're starting out as a creator that you have a lot of doubt whether you can pull it off. Got to get rid of that too. Just like you say, I'm a filmmaker or I'm a creator.
Right.
Say it with a straight face. You got to own it because if you don't say it, you're not going to believe it yourself. And I give a story about that all the time. Like I always hated working out, but I said I'm going to call myself an athlete finally. I'm an athlete, and then my life changed instantly. I didn't even need a trainer. So I tell people,
and that was something too. Like you were pursued by high school coaches. You grew up in Texas, so high school football is like a religion. You're a big guy. I'm sure the high school football coaches were like, "Dear Lord, this kid wants to go into movie making or storytelling. Can we get him? Can he put a ball in his hands?"
I know, right?
What's your quote from Rebel Without a Crew? Was "I don't ever run unless I'm being chased."
Yeah, I gave that to faculty. I don't run unless I'm being chased. That's how I get out of running, but. So you don't want to be a doubtful person either. I got this question for the first time. Somebody said, "You're really positive, but don't you have any doubts?" And so I thought, I got to think about that. I asked the audience, "What do you think?" That way give me a chance to think. Somebody said, do you have human doubts when you're doing your work or whatever, or just in your life and your creative endeavors? How would you answer that if the audience asked? Do you have any human doubts? Do you have any doubts besides, just going and making things? How would you answer that?
I had more doubts when I first started because my imagination was taking over for me, and it was trying to imagine a pathway based on information I didn't have. And so now I have the experience, and like you said, and the famous quote, I think it's a Tyson quote of, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And anytime you do anything, you're going to get punched in the face. Yeah. But you find sometimes when you stumble forward.
Yeah.
You catch yourself.
Or stumble upon an idea that no one came up with. Yeah.
I would say, like right now, I have doubts, but they're not at the forefront of my mind. You know? I just question what I'm doing.
So that doesn't sound like what you answered. So I'll chime in, but this is what my counterintuitive answer back was, because I said, what did y'all think? They all went, yeah. And I went, no.
No, really?
Just to be counterintuitive. But then when I thought about it, it's like, no, shoot, because what you just said, basically you just said you're not doubtful because you know the process.
Right.
But you would just say, oh yeah, I'm sure I have doubts. But really, if you were to look at it, when you know the process and you trust the process, which is you're not going to know everything that's going to happen. You're going to stumble, but you're going to figure it out, and that's just the way you're supposed to go. But you started. You shouldn't have any doubt that you can't figure it out. You're going to figure it out. It just might not be the plan that you had, so you don't have any doubts. Because if you say you have doubts, well, now you're a doubtful person. You don't want to be that. Again, you're labeling yourself. Your answer just said, I thought you were going to conclude, no, I don't, so I'm not a doubtful person. but then to just kind of, make it sound a little, I would say I have some doubts, but they're so far away, I don't even know what they are. Well, then take them out.
Don't let them dominate.
Don't even let them be there.
Yeah.
Not even in the far back. Just take them out and say, no, I'm not a doubtful person because I know the process. I'm going to go forward. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I know I'll figure it out once I get there. And I've just seen that's the process. So I would tell people to be careful what you tell yourself, commit to a body of work. And if you're committing to a body of work, you'll know right away that you don't have all the answers. But it doesn't mean you should have doubt. It doesn't mean you should fear going forward. In fact, if you have some fear about something you're going to take on, it means you're in the right direction. You're an artist. Fear forward, though. Don't let it cripple you because that means you're doing something that's out of your comfort zone, and you're always going to reap great rewards from that, even if it fails to your eyes initially, like me not being able to sell mariachi. Right. That was a failure.
Right.
Until 2 months later when it was not a failure and it suddenly was the smartest thing that could have happened. The universe helped make that happen. So just go. Don't stop. Commit to a body of work. If people throw shit at you, don't blink. Just keep moving forward and commit to making that body of work. Some things will overperform. Some things will underperform. Some things will way overperform, like the Spanish home video that won Sundance. You don't know which one would be what. So just keep going.
Well, and the project you did for Netflix as well, which is still to this day one of the most watched programs on Netflix, which is an inspiration for Brass Knuckle and what you're doing there.
It was the label thing again. So that was a different label. That was a label for my family. Double R was just us, because we all have double R names, I think I was telling you. So my son had said, I want to do a VR film, I think. He was like 17. I was like, well, let's start a VR company. I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to show you how to create a label like Brass Knuckle. Double R, we're all double R's. So any project any of the kids want to do, they can do it. Let's make a Lego label. Let's make some T-shirts, some mugs, some notepads. And I thought they would be like, yeah, whatever. And they were just like, whoa. When they saw them, they'd put on the T-shirts and get so into it. So, because now we have a company, an official company. And now, because we have a company, that's like your identity, right? Now I have to do things to fill the company. Let's go make a VR film. We'll call a VR company and say, hey, we got a VR company. Send us money and we'll make you a movie so you can help sell your sets. We make a movie with Norman Reedus, Michelle Rodriguez, The Limit. We get a big double R logo they made us for it. Later that year, we did Red 11. Again, double R logo on that. That went all the way to Directors Fortnight at Cannes. And people were paying us to tour to talk about the movie. Instead of you paying for a festival, they were paying us to go talk about it and show that masterclass. And we could have kept going, but we had to shoot our next double R movie, which is We Can Be Heroes, which we all wrote together. It has the double R logo and is the most watched and rewatched movie in Netflix history because kids can't stop watching. Nothing can touch it because kids watch it over and over and over. So like 3 huge projects in a row just by showing them how an example of making a label works because it's a filter. And they were like, Dad, you're right.
And the filter you're talking about is
This
those
works.
limitations. Yeah, those
It's
limitations.
filtered by giving it a name, and then it has a filter of limitations within it, because only certain things that I work with on my kids would go there, whatever their interests are. Family movies, VR movies, or movies that we make ourselves just by ourselves. They said, it works so well. And I was like, yeah, better than I thought. I was just making an example. Again, when you go to teach someone, sometimes something comes through. I didn't know I was going to put food on the table, but now I want to do that again with the audience. I want to create another label because I know how well they work now. We'll create our label. It's like our double R logo, but it'll be the audience instead of my kids, and I'm going to teach them how it goes. And they're going to learn how to pitch. They're going to learn how to make, and by proximity, they're going to pick up stuff, and they're going to feel like it's the best experience in their life, not because it's about making movies, but it's about learning how to go conquer life, because that's all movies teach you. Because so many people think, they might be listening now going, what do I have to work on? I mean, I have this project I can't quite get off the ground. I'm not ready to do it.
Right. I can't get Norman Reedus. I can't get people
I
hear that.
I can't even, but even at any level, I can't make it because I'm still missing. Well, cut your I need list down, first of all. Simplify it. And then if you're not ready, that's going to be on your tombstone. I was never ready. You got to just jump in. You're never ready for life. We're here having this interview, and this chainsaw keeps going off behind us. We weren't ready for that.
No.
But we roll with it. We just roll with it. But some people think that's life, though. How come your art has to be perfect before you can start?
That's something I've run into so many times where sometimes I have to be careful with myself for prep. When I'm doing prep, sometimes prep can be a very disguised version of procrastination. Like you're just preparing. And it's that old saying that perfect is the enemy of great.
Right.
They say good. I like to say great. Like, aim higher than good. Let's go
Right.
for great. But yeah, if people think things have to be perfect, you're just imagining the way they're supposed to be in your head. The universe will set you on a different path anyway. You'll find the better version of perfect.
I'll give you an even easier one than that, just to even get this. This really helped me because I'm like, he has much more confidence in his abilities than I do. So I was like, mine was more, the real artists are actually very imperfect. And that's what people relate to. People relate to the imperfection of art because it's human. If you could make something perfect, which you can't, it's not humanly possible, but if you did, no one could relate to it anyway. And people who love a lot of things in my movies, like this explosion that people walk away, that was an accident, actually. I didn't plan that. I planned that to be, but it stuck with them because they could tell innately carried the spirit of something that wasn't supposed to be there. And it was an accident, they really respond to it. So if you prescribe to that, you go, oh, people are going to respond more and come running up to you more about, how did you do that shot in the movie? And I was, it's because the sun was gone and we need to use the fish and we just scrambled some together. You like that part? They recognize the imperfection of humanity. I think just go forward knowing I can be imperfect. I can make imperfect art all day long. And that's the part people are going to like. So actually give me less time, give me less money. So I'm forced to be more creative and more of those kind of accidents can happen. Because, so let yourself off at that. Know that I can make imperfect art all day long. That's the goal. And then go do it.
And it'll be great.
And just make a body of work. You're not going to know.
And don't let the perfect in your head be the enemy.
Oh, yeah. Don't try to. You're never going to reach perfect.
Never.
So just go, I'm going to make something. I don't care if anyone watches. I'm just going to throw it away. I'm going to make it for myself. Well, you could win Sundance too. That's what happened with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're not trying to overthink it and overwork it.
And you're credited as being the person, I just learned this recently, the person who came up with the shot of walking away in slow motion and not paying attention to an explosion.
Yeah. If you look at whenever they do a montage of that, the first one is Desperado.
I never put that together, but I can picture that shot of Antonio Banderas and Selma Hayek walking away with that gigantic fireball in the background.
Yeah.
But that was a pivot. Like that shot, that you didn't play.
We were shooting, so no. In the script, it wasn't a fireball. It didn't make any sense. He was just throwing two of those little tiny grenades down a 2-story building, off the roof of a 2-story building. So whatever was going to fly up was probably going to barely fly up, just to indicate that he killed those guys. So in the script, cracks these 2 grenades, toss them over the side, and there's some dudes down there shooting, and him and her were going to just walk off, like they're contained. He's confident. Boom, and you see like a leg and some shrapnel and some smoke. This is a grenade. And we were shooting so fast, and my effects guy, it was just him, his wife, and his kid doing all the effects on that movie. So they were just squibbing. I kept adding more squibs, and they were just running ragged. And we finished at a location that had a lot of effects, and we moved quickly before the sun goes for that big jump Antonio does when he throws the grenades over and blows up these people, grenades from his guitar case. And I know he must be fried, and probably, I don't remember ever telling him about the body parts because it was in the script. I thought maybe he read it and got some and figured out a way to launch them up. And I go to him and say, I know you probably don't have body parts, but do you have anything that we can shrapnel or stuff that we can throw up there? It's pretty high up. How can we fire stuff up there so there's dust or something? There's no CG. And he goes, oh, no, I didn't bring anything like that. And he goes, but I can give you a fireball. I was like, what do you mean? Like a propane fireball? I could put it in a narrow thing that'll shoot it high enough to go up there, but it'll dissipate really quickly. I said, well, how quickly? He goes, like that. It's like, okay, well, I'll shoot it in super slow motion. So I go up there and I tell the actors, okay, it's got to look, you're supposed to just be walking away as some shrapnel comes up. I don't know how big this thing's going to be. So just walk really fast and the slow motion will make it look, and if you feel the heat, just keep walking and it'll get cooler as you get away. So just keep walking fast. And that's why they're going, because I said, just look like that you don't even know that it's there, because it might be a little thing, so I don't want you to overreact, and it might be big. I don't know. But let's shoot slow motion. So if you just speed up the shot, you'd see how fast that thing blows. And so I'd never seen that before. And so they're walking away in slow motion from a big fireball. I showed it to Cameron back in '95, and his hand went up like that when that part came up. So I was like, oh yeah, so this is a new thing. So I repeated it. Only 6 months later, Dusk Till Dawn came out with a version where I was going to now take it up a notch and have them walking out of the opening of the scene with the explosions behind them as they're not even paying attention to the explosion, right? So I thought, let me take it to the next level. So for the industry, within half a year, within 5 or 6 months, you saw 2 versions of that. And from then on, it kind of became a staple. But it was an accident on how it came up with it.
And you could tell the story a totally different way, different timeline of, it was in the script that we had body parts and we didn't have body parts, so we just didn't get the shot. You know, that there's a world where that story exists.
Yeah.
And it's such a different story than leading to something even with Quentin Tarantino and George Clooney having a completely different iterated version.
And then all those other versions that became a trope.
Yeah.
But it's what you said. Sometimes you'll stumble.
Yep.
When you go a different way, but you'll also stumble upon an idea no one came up with, because I stumbled upon that idea. All these things I'm talking about are things I stumbled upon. I wrote them down and thought, now this is how I'm going to do life on purpose, but I didn't preconceive any of this. But you're not going to get that until you start creating a body of work.
Right.
And just know sometimes the only way across the river is to slip on the first 2 rocks. No body parts, no anything. Get across the river, you slip, but we got a fireball.
Yeah.
So sometimes if you just stay on this side and don't even want to go across because it might be painful, you're going to have the worst life, because you know what life you should have and you're not going to get it because you fear, and you should fear forward. Or you think, I might just make this one thing and it might not work. Why are you making one thing? Make 10 things. Mm-hmm. Make a body of work. One of them will overperform at least, if not more.
Maybe the whole goal of getting started is not to get your project done. Maybe it's to get to that hurdle that you don't know what it's going to be. You want to look forward to that. What is that thing going to be that you're going to climb over, that you're going to leap over in order to go to the next level?
Yeah.
And
every short film I made, every one that I did had, even if they didn't work, there was always 1 or 2 things in it that got me excited about the next one. And like the momentum just keeps building. You just keep being hooked if that's what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. So you got to just start, though. A lot of people don't start. And don't go criticize other people's stuff, body work, because it takes too much time and too much energy. And you should be making your own body of work, and you'll get so much further. But tortoise in the hare. Look, I'm not smart at all. Look how far I got, because I just stayed serious, created my body of work, and just kept going.
Yeah, and then going back to the thing we were talking about, doubt too. If you're looking forward to whatever that thing is, that's the antithesis of doubt. You know, this is going to be the thing that's going to be your challenge. That's going to vault you to the next level.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I just every time we sit down and talk, I was like, I'm going to run out of here and immediately go try to work on something. Immediately get started on starting something new. And you're doing the same thing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hopefully, by the time this comes out, you'll have raised the cap on the
one
campaign.
More people in.
But what a great problem to have. You've already got it done. You've got great people. There could be a wait list. There could be an opportunity for it. But I'm really looking forward to what comes out of this.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We'll keep in touch about it. And Let me know when you're back.
I'm back a lot. I'm
Okay.
lot. So it's back and forth now that this thing's starting back up again. You know, it's going to be a lot of fun. And like you said, we'll see what the universe does to the plan and see what happens.
Check out my Wolfgang Van Halen video.
What you said it was based on a movie. Can you say what movie it's based on?
Can't say because I give something away.
I had
But
to ask.
when you watch, you'll know right away.
Yeah.
But it's shot in 2 days and edited in 2 days. You're not gonna believe it. It's massive and it's so cool. It's a throwback to those kind of videos they don't make anymore.
You're going to post it on
It'll be posted
like everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah, just look it up.
Yeah, I think
music
May,
goes everywhere.
May 2nd, May 1st, something like that. Pretty close.
Music videos are the best. So like the kids that are watching the Netflix things over and over again.
It's highly rewatchable, and it feels like one of those movies. But you can tell it's just flying by the seat of your pants, making it up as you go, solving certain problems with other creativity that works better. And you can still shoot that way and still make movies that way. That's when I'm like, this is brass knuckle. This is how we're going to be moving. We're going to be cranking out action movies.
Yeah, you never seem to stop making new things. I'm curious, though, at some point, have you ever considered, with your connection with UT, you ever thought about teaching? Like, because you do all of that. You have your film schools online and things like that. And you can learn on the website. You can go through and you're operating in plain sight. And so people can learn a lot from you. But you ever thought about making it formal and teaching a class or anything like that?
I don't know. I at some point I might. That might be a really fun thing to do. It's very close to my house, so I could just like
roll out of bed and go over.
Yeah, literally. It was like 5 minutes to 4 minutes away.
It would be tough, though, because you'd be teaching class while you're editing something in the background.
As part of the class.
I got to tell a story that I love about you. We can end on this, but the most Robert thing of all time, I wasn't there because I wasn't in the country for South by Southwest, but you had a big launch party for Brass Knuckle at South by Southwest. And your daughter was singing, and she had this amazing solo, and you were playing up there with her. You were playing guitar with her, and you were showing me a video of it. You were very proud, and she did amazing. But I had to laugh because it was a frame of you where you're playing guitar, she starts her solo, you drift out of frame and then drift back into frame immediately, and you've got a camera. It was the most Robert Rodriguez thing of all time. You just stepped out of frame and magically appeared back with the camera. So you're shooting while playing guitar.
Playing guitar, yeah. I wanted this shot behind her that the other cameras couldn't get. That showed the audience. There was a huge audience there singing, really enjoying what she was doing. And I knew I needed a shot, but I also had to play in the band. It's like, I'd rather film her than play in the band, but I have to be there to play those band notes. So.
Even during a performance.
We're going to do it again.
You're starting something new.
We're doing an arena show Friday for George Lopez. We're opening. And she's going to sing again. I'm going to do that again on the big stage because it got such a laugh last time. They're like, wait, he's playing guitar and getting the shot.
I love it.
So, yeah.
Well, one thing I've learned from you.
Juggling.
Never stop starting. Never stop starting. Robert, great to talk to you, man.
Great
Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. We'll have to make it a more regular appearance.
Yeah, this is really close. Yeah.
All right, take it easy. And if you want to support Robert's new project and participate in it yourself, go to BrassKnuckleFilms.com.
Come be one of our tribe, one of our brass knuckle warriors. Proximity. Change your life.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
All right, so if you want to support Robert's new project, check it out. You can visit BrassKnuckleFilms.com. And I want to say a very special thank you to Straybird Studios for hosting us today for our discussion with legendary director, Mr. Robert Rodriguez.